type of people in the community right now that can say, you know what, let me give back somehow, some way. And if we can coordinate that as business owners and then supporters of the community, which is our residents, the police, all they gotta do is sit back, you know, and nod their head and just say, yo, I appreciate y'all doing your job as a community. It start with us, don't start with them. You know, I've been to cities where you don't even see the police. It's the community that does our work. And when it's too much for them to bear, that's when the police come in.
Right.
So it starts with us first.
A lot of people in this community who could use assistance to shovel lawns, to paint fences or whatever, porches, fairly simple jobs that train kids to earn a living. We're not doing anything with those resources. The kids are capable, and we're making them out to be nothing but trouble, just out of the way. Let's keep them busy until they're grown up, and then they can become felons. How about we train them to be citizens from the time they're little? This little guy here is being trained to be a citizen. He's helping tremendously at this meeting.
We will continue to have robust programs. We'll continue to engage. We know the importance.
Absolutely.
You know, from the day I walked in this door, you know, I've been saying that we have got to connect with the youth in this community. And you know, and again, I don't know what happened in that incident, but that's whatever happened there. It's not going to, you know, get us off track and what our mission is with that. So.
When we think about the 3-year-old who was shot, that child's older sibling may now have some feelings that they're not going to be sure on how to express. And that child's parents and the parents of the other kids who go to that school, that daycare, also need the kind of support that's going to help them deal with what happened in their communities, but also the anger and frustration that they face, right? So I used to work, I was a teacher for middle school kids that were suspended or expelled from public schools in Colorado. And what I learned there was that most of my students, their older siblings and sometimes their parents had been involved in violence, and those kids just didn't have the opportunity to deal with that trauma as they were growing up, and they only learned how to express their frustration and anger in the same way that they had witnessed. And I think that one way of breaking these cycles and dealing with this more long term is to really think about how the greater the wave or the splash is of instances of violence, and thinking more expansively on those things. As far as getting more people involved, I know that mentoring and working with young people face-to-face is a really impactful way to do that. And it's not just mentoring, but it's sponsorship. It's not just financial, but it's in your support, it's in your letters of recommendation, it's taking them to events, it's bringing them to these. And I think that if every single person in this room and everyone who was here last week brought another person with them to each of these conversations and conversations like it, that we would start to have a more engaged adult to youth involvement. And I think that's really important, not just as role models, but as the village that helps raise children.
And I think one of the things we shouldn't forget is what it's like to be young, what it's like to be a teenager, and what it's like not to belong, but then at the same time people tell you you do belong. But then, on the other hand, if you got a tattoo or you got, you know, something that doesn't look what we feel comfortable with, then we treat people in a way that ostracizes them, which draws them to the groups that create, that end up with problems. So one of the things that I heard here, I don't know, is it Ted or Teddy? Teddy. I don't know Teddy from anywhere. I just happen to be here tonight. So Teddy said he's got a business and he's doing tattoos and a bunch of other things. And He's the community leader, and he's saying, look, this is what I do. He's at the meeting, and he's saying, this is what I do. So on the other hand, the other thing I heard was it reminds me of, like when I go to church, you got the new person that comes in and says, oh, you know, I want to sit at this church and see what it's like. And all of a sudden, everyone swarms in and say, hey, do this, do that, do this, do that. So I heard someone say to him, oh, how can we get other people? Yo, put more burden on him. Let's lift up Teddy for what he's doing and wait for other people to see what he's doing. They'll come because they'll want to be a part, as opposed to put the burden on Teddy. Teddy's doing his business. He don't want to go out there and ask and search. I'm assuming. I don't want to speak for you, you know? But if we lift Teddy up, let Teddy be Teddy. Thank you.
And this has always been a worry for me in this city. It goes back to that history of divide and rule. That not only are we divided as individuals, but we're divided as organizations and different domains. And we really have to figure out, and Danielle, I'm hoping you can help us with this, to figure out how finally to connect those dots. Because it's really, really important.